we're sitting there. We're like a couple people founded the company. We raised a $5 million pre-seed round about this idea. Like, remember, this is when AI was IBM Watson. That was sort of what was it in healthcare, and everybody sort of knew it wasn't an AI. It was like consultants doing design sprints. So every time I met a doctor, it was like, oh, AI, like, oh God. Um, and we didn't exactly come with sort of a small idea. We came with the idea of an AI that would be like streaming intelligence, medical intelligence real time. And people were just like, oh God, these people. Um,
Welcome back to this episode of the MedTech 101 podcast. And today I'm joined by an exciting co-founder and CEO of a company called Corti AI. And basically what they do a lot of amazing stuff, quite exciting, from like sort of like speech to text, translations for doctors. And I think it's really important because we live in a world where like doctors are basically pressurized by the amount of pressure on the healthcare system. So if there's anything that could be put in place to make their lives better, it makes a huge difference. So I'm joined by Andreas, Cleve, and this podcast has been like a while in the waiting. Like I've been waiting, I think, for almost a month or two, because I know Andreas recently had kids as well, like twins. So congratulations for that. And before this episode, before we started recording, we were joking about how like Actually's got 4 kids, including the company. So yeah, welcome to the podcast, Andreas.
Thank you, sir.
So yeah, just to get started, like could you please tell us about your background, and your journey leading to Corti AI, because it's quite exciting. I know you started in Scandinavia, decided to cross the big pond, so now in the US. How are you finding that transition?
Yeah. I'm originally Scandinavian, but my mom is Swedish, my dad's Danish, and I grew up in Copenhagen, which in our parts of the woods is mostly known for sort of cool pastry and owning Greenland. But let's not get into Greenland today, unless you want. Um, and yeah, my journey was so Copenhagen has and Denmark is very small. It's like what 6.5 million people. Great public healthcare. Healthcare is free. In Denmark, we actually pay people to go to school, so it's a very different society than what we know here in the U.S. And healthcare is pretty great. So I grew up in a world where healthcare was something very different than we know of it today. And my mom was working in psychiatry, and she got attacked by a patient. It was she worked with mentally ill kids, and a big kid got very mad at her when she was going on maternity leave with me. I'm the last of 4 siblings, so she was leaving. Kid got mad and hit her in the head with a stool, and that sort of spiraled her and I guess my first 10 years into a lot of healthcare. So I've spent a lot of time as a bystander and patient and a next of kin, and never thought I would work in healthcare. But many years later, I got sucked into a project where I was asked to help them code a workflow tool for staff management. So at a lot of hospitals, they, at least in Europe, they used a ton of temp agencies to get a lot of staff in there. And I didn't know a ton about healthcare, but I studied economy and business administration. I did some coding. I was asked to help build that platform, and what I saw sort of was the other side of the coin my mom and I had lived, which was like staff was under pressure, admin was terrible. There was so much going on, but like super driven, fantastic people, but sort of the system felt rigged. So I built the first company, which we sold in 2013, which was a staff management tool using AI. In 2010 to 13, that was like rule based, very different than what we know of today, but it worked quite nicely as sort of a conversational interface that could plan your roster, your shift planning for you, especially on the temporary worker side. And saved people a lot of money. We sold the company, bought some Bitcoin, and sort of reflected on sort of how do I, yeah, that was great. 2013 was great time for Bitcoin. But yeah, sort of what we had learned was like, A, think more about your investors, and B, wow, admin is broken. And I had a friend who was a guy I really looked up to, Lars, who's my co-founder, and he's one of the smartest people I ever met to this day. And Lars was working on a secret project for Apple in Cupertino, as part of his PhD, trying to help them build something that drives. He I think he can talk about it now, but at least he couldn't for a long time. I guess Apple never launched it, but he built a lot of IP for them. And how does an autonomous system know how to make decisions when it doesn't have all the information? And Obviously that resonated so much with me because what I saw in healthcare was a need for more and more healthcare professionals. We lacked more and more. We couldn't keep up. And AI felt like this obvious solution of just helping to reason more and more on all this admin, all this blurb of work. And we really needed some different kind of AI. So Laz and I came up with Corti, and Corti's vision was to sort of build a platform that was real time streaming AI, and that was the first fund we raised back in 16, 17. We called it context aware language models, and the idea was, could we build a real time AI that could be next to the physician, the healthcare professional, and help them do work.
Nice, nice. That's really exciting. Really, I think the background and what Cody is about is quite exciting, and I'm just glad that your mom was okay, and I hope she didn't get too hurt by that incident. And I mean, like I think it's quite exciting when you think about what motivates people to start things, because it's actually quite impressive. The fact that you've got a business background, but you've kind of moved into sort of like med tech, and it's kind of like a niche. Environment, heavily regulated, so much things that you have to take into consideration. So, and again, because now you're working with all of this, like obviously the biggest first question is, if you could share with the audience what like starting a company in Denmark is like, because I was when I was like in university doing biomedical engineering, Denmark was one of the like the hardest places to start like any like medtech company, or because for any medical doctor you need to bring in to get their ideas on, you have to document everything you give them. It's really really strict. So I don't know if you could shed some light on what it's like starting in Denmark, and the move you did to the US as well.
Yeah, so let me take you back. So we're sitting there. We're like a couple people founded the company. We raised a $5 million pre-seed round about this idea. Like, remember, this is when AI was IBM Watson. That was sort of what was it in healthcare, and everybody sort of knew it wasn't an AI. It was like consultants doing design sprints. So every time I met a doctor, it was like, oh, AI, like, oh God. Um, and we didn't exactly come with sort of a small idea. We came with the idea of an AI that would be like streaming intelligence, medical intelligence, real time, and people were just like, "Oh God, these people." Um, and we did want to do it from Denmark. So Denmark has a couple of Nordics have a couple of cool things. I think a lot of people in tech knows that I think the Scandinavia, Sweden, Denmark, Norway is creating a lot of cool software company, like really really smart developers. I think a lot of the infrastructure from anywhere from like Skype to Bluetooth technology to like original OG coding languages like PHP is from our side of the world. Like there's Spotify, Klarna, and like I could go on Unity. A lot of really cool companies comes from our small countries. Like I think it's like sub 20 million people in Scandinavia, and we create quite a cool amount of technology. But it's not exactly because it's easy. I think it's because it's very tech enabled. It's very very like infrastructurally well developed. People are really well educated. Again, education is free, and it's like there's a lot of core industries that's like has a lot of sort of build out of Scandinavia. But building Corti, we had the benefit of the majority of the hearing aid industry coming from Denmark. So hearing aid is obviously not what we're doing, but it's signal processing. And what we originally thought we would be deep in was signal processing. Ended up not being sort of the approach we took was much more sort of first principle. But there was a lot of engineers finding our space of processing audio signals super interesting. So we had a really good hiring platform. Healthcare had a shit ton of data. So when I traveled the world in 16, 17, 18, like the majority of US health systems was like obviously a lot of data in sort of Epic, but there wasn't sort of machine learning ready data anywhere. But that's actually contrary in Europe and in Scandinavia. There was a lot of the registry data, and we could, if you sort of understand compliance and all these hoops, you could build with local health systems and get access to like data that would be unfathomable to US startups back then. So what we sort of learned was like, hey, if we're going to build this from here, we're going to be like the most compliance riddled company in the world. And being sort of a VC backed company that like is super deep in ISO standards and compliance was sort of juxtaposition. But I think today it's like a massive benefit because many of our competitors are like pop out a Y Combinator on top of OpenAI and have never done a sort of a HIPAA standard compliance test or audit. And like we were baptized in compliance.
Yeah, no, thank you very much. I think it's really important to say that, because for a lot of people right now listening to this, the amount of paperwork you have to go through, is a lot. And I just want to give you credits for that, Andres. I think you guys have done a really excellent job over the last, since 2016 when you started, almost 9 years ago. Like in terms of the growth, the seed runs you've done and everything has been really great. And then moving forward to the next point you wanted to talk about, which is basically when we come to talking about AI, in healthcare. And I think most people, when they hear the word AI in healthcare, they think, oh no, the doctor's going to be replaced and stuff. But you guys have actually sort of rechanged this. You've said, okay, you know what, we're going to create an AI that focuses on helping medical professionals because they're, burdened by so much tasks they need to do. And you're trying to lighten their work. Could you please tell us how you plan to, create AI that helps medical professionals instead of replacing them?
It's a great question. So what Corti offers today is that it offers providers, health tech, med tech, pharma, life science companies who wants to build applications that has AI inside. Corti offers a replacement for like OpenAI or out of the box general purpose open source tools not built for healthcare. Instead, you can get models and infrastructure built for healthcare with all this compliance, safety. We're like luckily a lot better on hallucinations, all this stuff. So the idea is more AI. That's our sort of pitch. And to your point, some people still, when we interview doctors, it's like a third are still very worried about like companies like us coming for their job, for automation, and what will it feel like? And I think there's two things at least, and I totally understand that part, but I think my pitch would be a little bit different. So I am not smart enough to be a healthcare professional, but I am a patient, and I guess I will be forever now. Now I've got 3 kids, so I'm a patient a lot. Um, I don't want robot doctors. I don't. I just want more time with my doctor. That's it. And I don't think I'm going to get it because you want more time with my doctor too, or whoever else is seeing my doctor. And that's sort of the squeeze we have seen that over time, the available time for eye contact between healthcare professional and patient is generally under pressure because there's so much other stuff to do. And many people then think, oh, that's because like paperwork is the enemy of anything. And that I don't think is true either. That's the next problem in the thesis is everybody's like, oh, paperwork has to go away. That's not true. Paperwork is my sort of kernel. I think Judith from Epic, when she built the first version of Epic, she called it the Chronicle. I think there's something like also like the Epic, the word for like the original sort of Greek connotation. Like my data is my life. It's important to me. My data living inside whatever system is really great, and I want a lot of it. It's not exactly like I wear a Whoop because I don't like data. I want healthcare to have a lot of data on me so they can treat me better. So paperwork, which creates data, is not the enemy. The enemy is the amount of time it takes for them to help me create my data, transfer my data, and make sure it's high quality. That's the enemy. So our take is if we all want more time with doctors, we want great healthcare data, but we don't want to sacrifice access and we don't want these increasing prices. What do we do? That one take would be we hire more healthcare professionals, but at this point we're going to miss something like 10, 15, 20 million healthcare professionals globally over the next 10, 15, 20 years. So we cannot hire enough. There's not a lot of them. More and more people are disillusioned by healthcare. Burnout is real. And the young people going into education is increasingly not wanting to go into healthcare because they're worried about their life quality and the pressure they'll be under. So supply demand curves are broken. I just started saying, I just want more. I just want more and more healthcare. The more I can get, the better. But there is less and less supply. So something has to change. So our take is AI is not here to replace the people. On the contrary, it's to free them up so we can get more time. And we're 100, I think 40 people rub and stop at Corti. Everyone is a patient or a bystander or next of kin. We all just want to buy more time with people. That's the goal. But that has to happen through us thinking differently about all the transactional stuff going on in healthcare that isn't about FaceTime, isn't about health care, but about mandate, about compliance, about payments, about infrastructure that we should go help solve.
Yeah, and I thank you very much for saying all of that, Andreas, because I think it makes a lot of sense when you think about the struggles that are involved in terms of collecting like that all that data and stuff. And I was actually joking with one of my mates the other day. I think just like right now it happens that I'm wearing an Apple Watch, and it's one of the things that, when you even simplify it to people on a day-to-day basis in terms of the data you can collect about yourself, and how that data also can then be used to actually to create tailor-made, like a healthcare approach towards whatever problem you might be having. But the issue is, as you mentioned, is the amount of paperwork that's involved for that. And if we can find simpler ways to bring that to fruition for medical professions, and that helps them, I'm sure they'll be grateful as well. So I think the question is now is like, as much as we're working now to challenge all these issues, like, is it, how affordable is it? Because obviously we know it's a software, and I've got friends, like personally myself, I grew up in South Africa, and people will be listening, and I went to university in the UK, and they'll be wondering, okay, cool, so if this technology can be accessed anywhere, that's the beauty of the internet, and software, that doesn't really require that much infrastructure to get it installed. Like, what would you say to those people wondering in terms of the accessibility, the affordability of this? Because this sounds like a really great product.
Yeah, so our product today is an API. So for technical people, it's an easy thing you can go access. We're launching full open, consumption free. So like, start for free, no strings attached. You can just go fetch the API and compare it to OpenAI or whatever you were testing today. And our promises, what you get from the big AI labs like OpenAI, we will build for you, but just for healthcare. So we will make it specifically designed for healthcare. And our goal, by focusing so much of healthcare, is trying to make it more accessible, easier to use, higher quality, easier to insure, because you actually can control risk better, and obviously bring down price. So I at least think the highest kernel, if you look at what drives up cost in care, as far as I know, to simplify a lot, there's obviously a lot more flavor to it, but the cost of services, so people's hourly wages, is getting more and more expensive the more specialized they get, and healthcare is getting more and more specialized. That increasingly means, if you go back, I'm sure at least this was what it was like in Europe. I'm sure it might have been the same in South Africa. But if you went back 70 years, you went to a rural hospital, there was a surgeon. That surgeon will have done a lot of different surgeries 70 years ago. Today, that surgeon might be doing like eyelids or kneecaps, and they're super good at kneecaps. And that's beautiful. But that means you get the world's best kneecap surgery, right? But like, kneecaps are a very small thing, relatively, right? But the quality is much higher. So what do we do? Because there's so little supply and so much demand, and it's so specialized, that drives up cost. So our job is trying to make the best AI available, so everybody can build beautiful AI apps and workflows that's like tailor-made for oncology, pediatrics, whatever specialty in healthcare they want to do. And as they build better and better apps, hopefully that will help healthcare bring down cost of care, because they'll become more efficient. And our job is just to make the infrastructure, the piping, the electricity grid of intelligence in health cheap as hell, so everybody can build. That's our goal.
So basically, getting back to, like the biggest hurdles in healthcare, and I think a lot of things have changed in terms of the mentalities. Like, there used to be this stigma. For example, like a couple of years ago, when AI was starting, with most people were worried about AI, what it meant, and many people felt like it was there to replace their livelihood. But now that has kind of gone down, right? As we have seen the introduction of, large language models such as ChatGPT, DeepSeek, etc., where people now see AI as a tool that they can use to make their lives better, and everything. And I'm sure, as you had mentioned earlier, that at the beginning, that's also the challenges you face when you were talking to doctors in Denmark and everything. But now, like, what would you say are the, like the biggest, hurdles, like, for healthcare institutions, when it comes to, and what they need to overcome them, like in terms of what Corti is trying to do? What would you say is now the biggest hurdle for you guys at the minute?
So we, together with YouGov, we interviewed, I think, around 2,000 doctors this year to just understand sort of where they're at in the AI journey. And a sort of a funny conundrum we're seeing a lot, and this is mainly in Europe and the US. So that's a caveat, but 2,000 doctors here. So we asked them, so, you excited about AI? Two-thirds says yes, very excited. It should absolutely be used in healthcare. Then we asked them, do you use it? And they're like, yeah, 73% of them have tried it but don't use it. 73. So if two-thirds believe people should use it, but 73 of them have tried it but don't use it yet, then the obvious question is why? The obvious questions comes down to fear of mistakes. Can I trust it? Is it good enough? When is it good enough? And is it up to me to underwrite that risk? So I think what we believe a lot is that we're still in the very, very, very first inning. Like we're very early in the AI journey. And the majority of apps we see, the majority are still finding their feet. Obviously, there's fantastic companies already, like a Bridge and others are such an inspiration. But the vast majority of companies and startups in healthcare doing AI are early. They're still finding out what to do. I believe in 2-3 years, the actual UI, the workflows, the apps is going to be like an order of magnitude better. And hopefully, companies like us who build for a purpose will help them have AI inside the belly of these apps that is much more trustworthy. If those two things happen simultaneously and we can bring the cost down, I think we're going to see sort of Cambrian explosion globally. And I don't just mean in sort of the care we have today, like what we use today will be more AI enabled. I mean, A, parts of the world that doesn't have great healthcare or great access will get a lot better access. And B, there's a lot of healthcare we never knew would exist that is going to exist because now we have AI to plug holes and distribute and make stuff available. So I think it's a lot less about just like making today's outpatient care 8 minutes faster per day. It's a lot more about rethinking what happens around that with the help of AI.
Sure. And no, thank you very much. And because obviously what you guys really have, and just to, even shed more light in terms of what Corti has, like what your algorithms are capable of, you guys do speech to text detection, essentially doing transcriptions of conversations between patients and doctors. You do like ambient documentation, which is like, making the documentation easier. You do diagnostic and procedure coding, which is also helps reduce some maybe some misunderstandings that are happening, and also you do contextual search and knowledge like retrieval. So like, and this is just a short list of the things that you guys are doing. And to me, like, or for most people, this already sounds like futuristic, and but this is actually the reality today, that what we have today, and that's the impressive part of it. So, like, what do you think the future will hold? And I think this, like, it's a question which you're allowed to, let your imagination run wild, if you please, because, like, I think is are we heading towards a world where you're just able to grab your phone and maybe tell it a few things, and then it sends it to your doctor, and the doctor knows, okay, cool, maybe you need this dosage or something like that. Like, what do you think we're going in terms of, like, what do you think would like healthcare in terms of would be like in terms of how AI is helping it with documentation in 10 years time or 5 years time? Like, what are your thoughts on that? I'm just curious to pick your brain on that one.
Yeah. I'm so excited that I know I'll be off here because I know I'm gonna be so amazed by what people come up with, right? So I think that's so excited to see whatever weird mind concoct here. Um, what sort of we think about our solution as sort of we have 15 API endpoints at this point, 20 by end of summer, and they sort of think about it as sort of 3 levels. One is sort of I am a healthcare professional, and there is sort of a what we call sort of a single player game. So we all like we play computer, the single player game. And in a single player game, your needs is a little bit different. Let's take I'm a single player, I need to document, I might just want to dictate. Many doctors have done that for decades. There's much smarter ways of doing that with AI. We're building some of those. That's sort of single player stuff. Then we have multiplayer stuff. You're my doctor, I'm your patient. We're sitting and talking. How do we play this multiplayer game together where it like follows both of us? It connects to the journal, finds out what you said last time you talked with another, or I did last time I talked with another doctor. What's the guidelines? What's the insurance? We play a lot in multiplayer. It's what like the ambient workflows. There's a lot of coding. There's a lot of sort of checks and balances, all this stuff. And then there's third party gameplay. So like some people have gone to Twitch and watch other people play. There is AIs that will need to watch healthcare professionals play to do the stuff around, like follow up with the patient. Did you pick up your prescription? Does it make sense? Do you have any like symptoms? Or write them letters, follow up, write it into journals. And that's sort of that realm is so deep because there's so much AI agents could do while the doctor still focuses on the patient. And that universe is where I think we're going to get the most amazing unlocks because it will challenge what we think is healthcare, which will bleed much more into what we know today as sort of consumer health. So, what will the AI do when it runs on your Whoop and your Apple Watch and your Apple Health data and your journal in my chart, and it can listen in on your communicate? Like, I think there's going to be many distribution opportunities in consumer health that will make healthcare much more preventative and cheaper.
Yes. Nice, nice. That's really good to hear that, and I think it's amazing the work you have done. And obviously, I know like we're kind of coming to the end of our episode, but like for people who perhaps might want to reach out to you or like know where you're gonna be this year, are you attending any conferences? And like, what are your contact details? Can they just reach out to you from your website or your LinkedIn? Like, what's the best way for people to reach out to you, if, like for doctors listening, if they're particularly interested in what you have here?
Yeah. So we're operating in 11 countries. We're going to 20 the next 18 months. We're global operations, so we're excited about any place from Seoul to Seattle and anywhere in between. Um, we like to think that we can be a good partner to people building for healthcare. So if that's a clinician out there wanting to build an app or a startup or a company that wants more AI in their apps, we would love to help. And you can find us on Corti.ai. You can find me on Twitter or LinkedIn at Andreas Cleve. If you Google, you'll be fine. And I think we're generally available. And if you're a startup or a builder or an entrepreneur and you want to build something cool, we also offer credits and we help you build AI into your app. So reach out if you want some support. We're here to help. And yeah, find us wherever.
Nice, nice. That's good. I'm really happy to hear that because it sounds like a lot of um, things that you have, and it's easy for you to access for people to access you, and that's really good. And I know a few mates of mine who are actually thinking of starting some startups in medtech or AI like related products. I would also send them your way. And but yeah,
Please
thank
do.
you very much, Andreas. It's been really educational, and yeah, thank you very much for coming on the podcast.
Hey, thank you for having me. And kudos for a cool podcast.
Cheers. Thank you very much.